Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Preview Show, Week 15, where we'll be going over all of the Week 15 fixtures, giving you our winners and losers. And Adam is here to go over all of the betting tips, keeping the roll going. He's on a bit of a decent streak at the moment with the winners. And also, we are on a Friday because this week it's that time of year where NFL is on Thursdays, Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays. Adam, are you a fan of having a full pack weekend of NFL, or are you going to be able to watch it all, or are you going to miss it because they've changed the days?
It's a pain in the arse because it means I have to look at all this betting stuff before. I mean, like, what are they doing? So it's, absolute nightmare. We had it nice and simple. Everything was going fine, been going fine all year. And then they threw this little curveball into it. And next week's going to be even more fun. So, but it's good that you get to see more football. That's the positive. And I mean, because it's sort of Saturday evenings, isn't it, our time, and Sunday evenings, it'll be fine. I'll probably see most of it. Just difficult. You got to do the betting show earlier, and they do silly things like they come out and go that Mike White can't play. I mean, just disgusting.
I mean, we discussed it last night on the fantasy show. There is still a lot of players still carrying questionable, still at limited practice. You know, we're not going to find out until maybe because of the time difference, they're going to practice today and then tomorrow. So you don't usually get the proper injury reports for another couple of days. So it must make your life really difficult for this betting show. But
little bit, yeah. I am I am going to come out and say there is a slight caveat to this week and next week. What with all of that going on, it does make life 100 times harder because obviously you're trying to do bets for Sunday night and it's Friday night, and like you say, they have, and it's not even that, it's Friday night over here, so it's like that makes it even harder because of the time difference as well. So yeah, it's it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens.
I suppose you can always post out some additional trebles and things like that if we find out that things do change after today.
Yeah. So I've done them all already. I had to make one change already, but I've done them all already. They're the ones that are meant to be going out, but I won't put them out until the days of the actual game. So yeah.
We've already had one game in the books. The San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks. San Francisco securing a place in the playoffs and winning the game 21-13. I actually stayed up to watch most of this game just because it had fantasy implications for me. And the Seahawks dropped to 7-7, now battling it out in the hunt for the playoffs rather than actually in there. Adam, what do you think of the game?
We kind of saw that coming, didn't we? A little bit. We felt that the 49ers would take the division eventually and sort of push on, and the Seahawks might drop a bit. I think it was kind of similar with the game. I think the 49ers just looked a better all-round team. It was their defense that won it, to be honest. Just stopped, completely stopped the Seahawks, stopped the run game. Kenneth Walker, not sure he was 100% fit, I have to say. Seemed a little quiet on last night, but the 49ers defense is just so good as well. So yeah, it wasn't really a shocker that it happened. I think the 49ers are going to be in a very interesting situation come the off season because they're going to have 3 quarterbacks and it looks like they can all play. So I don't know. I don't quite know what they're going to do with that, but yeah, they look good, don't they? They look like a solid team.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy again looked really steady, holding the helm there, and made some nice throws and nothing stupid. Seems to fit in the scheme quite well. So maybe they just play all 3 of them at certain different points of the game. It could be interesting. Just bring them all in.
Do have a sort of Taysom Hill-esque Saints thing going on where you've got loads of different quarterbacks all at the same time, or the Texans, of course.
And I would like to revert back to last night's show just quickly, where I did say don't start Kenneth Walker, and you were on the side of starting him, weren't you?
I mean, if the thing with that is, I just think if you're going to come out and say he's fit, then I actually think for fantasy you couldn't not start him. I think if he's fit, given where you are, most people are. I mean, I know the guy who's got him in our league started him. I think it's near impossible, given what he's been doing, given that Seattle usually always want to run, but that kind of got taken away from him a little bit last night. You kind of feel like you have to. So I think that's why. But yeah, it's difficult when some of these injury designations, they're not necessarily telling you the full story, so it can be quite difficult to work out.
Yeah, definitely. I think we saw that at the start of the year when we weren't sure whether Najee Harris was fit and playing games and not looking like himself. It obviously was proven because he seems to be playing well at the minute. So it's tough at that running back position to carry injuries and play well. But let's jump into what we've got coming up on Saturday. First fixture, 6 o'clock our time. It's the Indianapolis Colts at the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I think it's these Saturday games. I think this one, it might be an interesting game, maybe not, the kind of thing. I wouldn't say it's too exciting, but I think it's certainly better than the next one. Let's put it that way. I think personally, I think the Vikings will probably take it. If they win this, then they take the division. So I think that they're kind of motivated. They're at home. It's going to get the crowd going, all of that. So I do like the Vikings to win this game. Obviously, Justin Jefferson at 17-20 he's odds on, but it's Justin Jefferson. It's what you're going to get. I do like Dalvin Cook in this game. I know he's really short at 8-11, but I do like Cook because the Colts are tied 23rd against the run when it comes to giving up touchdowns. So I think this could be quite a rushing game, this one, actually, despite some of the receivers that are out there. And then finally on the Vikings side, I pretty much say it every week because I just know he's going to get loads of targets. It's TJ Hockenson. He's 7-4. He's a little bit bigger price. I think he'll do pretty well. And Cousins is always going to use him, like most tight ends seemed, or not all of them, but a lot of the tight ends that we've been saying, your Dallas Goedert for Hurts. It's the safety blanket. I think that Hockenson is already that for Kirk Cousins. So at 7-4, I think he's a good price. On the Colts side, now this is the theory, isn't it, that you were telling me yesterday that Adam Rank's come out with, of that Matt Ryan is a good choice this week, because the Vikings, although if you actually look at it, they're only 18th against giving up passing touchdowns, but in the last 3 weeks, they are currently 32nd against giving up passing yards, and they're not looking great. They're looking a bit banged up, that defense. But it is Matt Ryan, and the Colts offense hasn't been great. And I was kind of a little bit like, don't really know. I think because of all of that, Michael Pittman is 15-8. I think just the talent alone, I think you have to consider him at a decent price. The one area, though, that the Vikings do and have really struggled defensively and giving up the yards is over the top. They've been giving up big plays. Alec Pierce is the one who is likely to get that. So it's kind of like the rest is Pierce and Campbell, but Alec Pierce is the one who's likely to get that. At 7-2, I think he's the one big price guy in this game that might be worth having a look at. And then obviously, just because he is one of the best running backs in the league, Jonathan Taylor at 4-5. The Vikings are 20th against rushing touchdowns. So I think Taylor's definitely worth including in multiple bets. But yeah, I like the Vikings. I think they'll win it. I think they'll be motivated to win it. And I don't see it being a mega high scoring game, but I could see like a 24-21 kind of situation where the Colts will get a few touchdowns.
Yeah, we saw the Vikings come unstuck last week, losing to Detroit. And we said a few weeks back when the Eagles lost their first game, it's really hard to bounce back after the loss and see how well, when people have sort of found out your weaknesses in your areas and managed to capitalize on it. We've said week in, week out, we're unsure about the Vikings fully because if it's all Justin Jefferson, it's literally all Jefferson. The addition of Hockenson has helped, but the Colts are number one against the wide receiver, aren't they? I believe they're number one defense against wide receivers. Now, if that's the case and they do mark Jefferson out of the game, I know not many people have, but this could be another game for them to have another bit of a slip up. They've had a lot of close games, and although Matt Ryan, you laugh and you say, oh, it's Matt Ryan. This guy was a more than capable quarterback before the season started. And going into the season everyone thought was an upgrade on last year. Good weapons, good defense. I think this could be another game where the Vikings come unstuck, and I'm going to go with the Colts for the win here. Just think they're set up to beat the Vikings. I just think their team is set right to beat them. Maybe not necessarily every week, and they're not pushing. They've got nothing really to play for either. But I just like the matchup this week, and I'm going to stick with the Colts for the win on this one. Playing on a Saturday as well. Maybe they'll be a bit different.
I think the logic is right. I do kind of agree to a certain extent. The logic is right, and it was like what you were saying yesterday, that the logic, it all makes sense. It does. I just don't feel that Jefferson is someone that you can mark. I just don't think you can mark him out of the game. And then the other problem with that is that if you try to and you end up putting two guys on him all the time, you then open everyone else up. So I think that's what the problem is. But yeah, I do. I think it'll be a lot closer than what people are necessarily thinking. I think a lot of people think the Vikings are going to blow them out. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, the logic has been there many weeks with the Colts, and they still haven't managed to produce the goods. So, you've got to punt on them and get it right eventually. I think I said that last week as well. The next Saturday game, the 9:30 fixture, is the Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, not exactly the most exciting of games, given who we've got here. On the Browns side, they're at home, so you'd kind of hope for maybe a little bit of a push forward. Watson has just struggled. I kind of felt like we saw a little bit last week. There were a few more throws that were kind of more like what he was before all the suspensions, but he doesn't look the right. He doesn't look like Deshaun Watson, which we shouldn't really be shocked about given how long he's been out for. I like Cooper purely because you look at his home and away splits, he's just so much better at home. Obviously, you're going to need Watson to perform a little bit. I think he might be able to do something. So Cooper at 7-4 is, I think, a decent price given Cooper's history of being at home. And then the only other person on the Brown side that I kind of like the look of is David Njoku this week. I think Njoku has shown that he's just an absolute physical specimen, and that he will, as a red zone target, 100-30. I think he's a really good shot. So I do like him. The Ravens, there's no Lamar Jackson by the sound of it. Tyler Huntley is meant to be back apparently, but they're just not really scoring much. And as we've said before, the wide receivers aren't great. There's not really a lot there. J.K. Dobbins came back. He looked all right when he came, although the first run, he had a very weird running style. It looked like he injured himself, to be honest. But he came back, got the touchdown, had an okay game. So at 6-4, I like Dobbins for this game. But the Browns they're okay against the pass. They're not too bad, but they give up against the run, which is why I like Dobbins. The Ravens, I just think they're going to be defensively a little bit too strong. They don't let many touchdowns go against them. They're pretty solid in it. I actually like the Ravens at +1.5. You can get like 11-10 for that. I think that's a decent price for them to have a little, head start in this game. And I think the Ravens will win it, but I don't think it's going to be a particularly fun game. And it's weird because I haven't mentioned Nick Chubb at all, but I just think that Raven, they're 11th against rushing touchdowns. I think they might keep him quiet.
Now, did you not mention Chubb? Because I was going to bring this up to you. Did you notice against the Bengals that Kareem Hunt was in for loads?
A bit more, wasn't he? Yeah.
Loads of the snaps, especially down towards like the 30 to the red zone. I was like, where's Chubb? Why is he not on? Seemed really odd. Really odd. He wasn't even in. All 3 snaps. Kareem Hunt in for all of them. I don't know whether he's carrying an injury or it's just because he couldn't get it going that day. They were only just behind, so it's not as if they had to all out throw to get back in it. It was 23-10 in the end, so that it's not a blowout. But I noticed Kareem Hunt's in loads more now. Deshaun Watson's there, so I don't know whether
there was a thing. Apparently, Chubb is the running back 5, I think, at the moment. I think probably for fantasy more than anything else. But in the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, he's dropped off a lot, and I can't. He hasn't looked great. And like you say, since Deshaun Watson's been there, they're not using him as much.
No.
It's a little strange. But,
really odd. I mentioned this before. I mentioned it before the start of the season that there might be some unrest from Chubb bringing in Watson. I thought it might affect him which I said maybe he'd leave and go somewhere else. But hey ho. On to the Sunday fixtures. First up, good game, really interesting one to watch. It's the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. So, well, Sunday for us, obviously. Saturday night for It's a bit of an odd one, this one. It's a snow game, isn't it? They reckon it's bad weather, not a lot's because of that. I think there's quite a concern that not a lot's really going to happen. It's difficult to really sort of have confidence in any of the receivers. They look like it's going to be tough for a lot of them, and it's going to be a lot of rushing. And the other thing is like, not especially for Miami, you're going up against this Bills defense, which are just still very, very strong, despite the fact that they've had all these injuries. They're 9th against rushing touchdowns, tied 6th against passing. So they're not going to give much up. I quite like Mostert. He's 7-4. He seems to have taken over from Wilson at the moment. So I think Mostert at 7-4 is quite a nice one. And then this is purely because of the price, because you are not going to see this price again. It is literally just because of the weather and they're away to the Bills. Tyreek Hill at 7-4. It's a huge price for him. You won't see it again. It is a bit of a punt because of the weather, but I think that he's worth having a go just because it's Tyreek Hill, and you never know. I mean, look at the touchdown he got last week; it's ridiculous. I mean, he picked it up off the floor and got in. So, I think because of that, he's always you never know. He's always capable. So I think that with him, I'd look at him. On the Bills side, really like Devin Singletary. He's about 8-5 you can get for him. So I think Singletree's worth looking at. Like your boy James Cook, I think he's definitely worth keeping an eye on. He seems to be getting more involved. He's 7-4, so he's a little bit bigger, but obviously doesn't get involved too much. And then a little bit similar to Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs is 23-20. It's obviously shorter than Hill, but you don't see Diggs at odds against. This is the other one. So I think it's worth having a look at him. Having said all that, I think the Bills win it. I think it'll be the under. It's at 44. Quite like the under. I think it's going to be a lot of rushing and not a particularly. I think it'll be a good game to watch, but I don't think it's going to be like a high scoring, interesting game.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at who their head coaches of the Dolphins and see what Mike McDaniels did with Deebo Samuel at the 49ers, you kind of think that he'd try and get Tyreek involved in the game that way. It'd be silly not to get him involved, whether you're giving it him to run with the pace that he's got. So I'd definitely be getting all over those odds with Tyreek Hill. That they're going to get him involved, because if you don't, you're going to have similar game as what you did last week, aren't you? We've seen if the throwing's not there, they do struggle. With it being a snow game and a run game, you've got to go with which side's got the best defense, and that's the Bills. So for me, that's the reason I'm going to go for them for the win. And like I say, you've seen more out of James Cook. Josh Allen's always an option on the run. Singletary's not. Will do his bit. So they've got a good plethora of people that can do well for them. So yeah, I'm gonna side with the Bills in this one for that reason as well. Next game up, it is the Hurts versus Fields game. It's the Eagles at the Bears. What are you saying?
I think the Eagles will win, obviously. I just, the Bears as an overall team, they're just not there, are they? I was having a look at what they've got. Who's going to score for the Bears? And every time it's the same two every time. It's going to be Justin Fields, who's 13-8. I think he probably will, to be honest, just because of the rush, and it'll just happen. And David Montgomery at 6-4. I think both of these guys will get in. I think they'll do pretty well, but I think that's the limit. really when it comes to the Bears. There's just nothing there, and it's like I suppose losing Darnell Mooney is probably the reason that it's all kind of been not a lot for the Bears. So I don't really see much else happening here. I think the Eagles will win it. The one thing I would say is that the Bears are tied 8th against giving up passing touchdowns, whereas against the run, they're bottom of the league. So I think because of that, you have to sort of start looking more towards that. And the thing with this Eagles side, we've seen over the last few weeks, it doesn't matter who they're playing or what the opponent's weakness is. They're more than capable of exploiting it. And so I think that they're going to go for this run game, and that it's going to be one of them games where they will just run the ball a lot. And AJ Brown and Devonta Smith might have quiet weeks, and I think Dallas Goedert will be used as well, which really does sort of temper down the enthusiasm for Devonta Smith, I must say. But on the Eagles side, I really like Miles Sanders at 10 to 11. I think everyone is expecting Hurts to go in now. That's what they think is going to happen. He's going to rush in. Well, now Sanders is there as well. And also, their number 2 seems to be Boston Scott now. It was Gainwell for a lot of this season, but Scott seems to be getting more involved again. At 13 to 5, I think he's worth having a look at a bigger price. You can go for Hurts. He's 10 to 11. I wouldn't put anyone off of it. But for me, I think Sanders is probably the one that's most likely. It is short, but it's an Eagles player. They're all short at the moment. It's just what it is. Yeah, I think the Eagles will win it. I wouldn't say they're going to annihilate them, but I mean they're 9 points favourites. I don't think they'll necessarily do what they did to the Giants last week and beat them by that much, but I think they'll cover the 9 points.
I think it could be a similar show to what the Giants, because there's holes all over that Bears defense. Yeah, they've got a couple of nice pieces, but the Eagles know how to exploit the weak areas with the weapons they've got with running and throwing. It just seems to work for them. So this could be a tough game for the Bears, I think, and Eagles will want to press on, won't they, with the rest of the season and kind of go into the playoffs with the form. We've always said if you're hot coming into this time of year, then they're the teams that usually do well. So they won't want to take their foot off the pedal, despite the fact they're already qualified. Yeah.
Well, they're going to want that bye, aren't they? You know, this is what it is now. So
yeah, and in terms of the Bears, I did notice when the Fields was throwing the ball a bit more, it's kind of going towards Kmet, wasn't it? That seemed to be the option more than any of the wide receivers. Don't think you can really trust any of them. So that seems to be my option. I think, would I be right in saying that Montgomery might even be carrying a bit of a questionable injury as well?
Yeah, I think, I mean, to be honest, it feels like everyone's carrying a questionable at the moment. It just seems to be what it is once you reach this part of the season. But yeah, I think he is a little bit, but I just feel it's kind of similar to the Hurts-Sanders thing. It feels very similar in the fact that it's Fields-Montgomery. I don't think it's going to be a particularly exciting game to watch, I must say. I think it's going to be the Eagles are just going to just run the ball down their throat all game long and just annihilate them that way.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think there's any connection? I've noticed this, that Boston Scott seems to play a lot more towards the back end of the year. Always.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? It's straight. He did this last year, and it was sort of towards the end of the year.
The year before as well. I think it's just the back end of the year. They go, oh, do you know what? Let's throw him in there, and he seems to do really well. Always got a man.
I mean, maybe there's an element of just having a fresher guy. Yeah, you know, you never know. It might be all it is, but yeah, it does seem strange that they do it.
On to the next game. We're going to see one of the rookies that a lot of people were looking forward to see. It's the Atlanta Falcons at the New Orleans Saints. So Desmond Ridder's got the start for this week. He's had a full week to practice with the team. So do you think we're going to see good things from him in this game? I
think it's really, really difficult to have any confidence at all in anything to do with the Atlanta Falcons for this game. It's a tough game to come into, isn't it? It really is. I mean, the Saints are currently tied 8th against passing touchdowns, tied 13th against rushing touchdowns. That's a team that doesn't give up many touchdowns. I mean, it's going to be really difficult for him, and I think because of that, you just can't really have any confidence in any of their receiving options. I mean, it was tough anyway, but it's even worse for this game because I don't see it. Maybe he has a rapport with Drake London and it all goes well, but until we see it, you can't really back it. So I think that's going to be very difficult. On the Saints side, I like Kamara for this game. He's been very quiet this year, but I do like Kamara for this game. The Falcons are tied 23rd against rushing touchdowns, so they're gonna, give up a few touchdowns here and there to a team like the Saints. So I think Kamara can rush one or two in this game. I think it'll do really well. He's 5-6, so he's odds on, but he's still worth it. And then finally, the only guy really that I have any faith in on that Saints side in the receiving corps is Chris Olave, and he doesn't get enough touchdowns, but he doesn't seem like he's that guy. He seems more of a chain mover and gets lots of yards. But he's up against a team that's kind of middle of the pack when it comes to giving up passing touchdowns. And at 6-4, I think he's a fairly solid price to have a look at. I think the Saints will win just because I think you're going to have growing pains with Ridder, and it's just what it is, isn't it? So I think it feels weird because I feel like the Falcons are still in. They're still in with a chance. I mean, they shouldn't be, but they are, and it just seems a little. I know you got to find out what this guy can do, but it seems odd.
Yeah, I mean, best of luck to him. There's a lot of people rooting for him. There's a lot of people rooting for him going into the draft as well. So it could be good. His favourite target at college was Alec Pierce, who we're seeing. And if you think about the style of play that Drake London does play, yeah. I can see that connection working well. I can see if it does click, Drake London's going to have a good game here. What we've also got to remember is Ridder's he's got wheels as well. He can move. So we've always got to watch out for him running the ball. That's a bit of a dual threat for you. So I think he's going to offer something that people might not expect or have seen. You've got to have properly done your homework on him. So there might be a surprise element factor with him. But yeah, I think it's tough for them because their defense doesn't help them out. And they've had trouble at running back over the last few weeks, not really getting it going. Cordarrelle Patterson hasn't really been the same guy that we saw at the start of the season. And the Saints have looked good. They've looked good in games. They've looked competitive in games. They've looked consistent. I think that's a good thing to say for them. Obviously not winning all the time, but yeah. And your point about Olave is spot on to really what college as well. I think that's why he was underrated going into this draft, because he got unless you watched Ohio State, he got all the donkey work done, got all the yardage, and Garrett Wilson gets it in the end zone and everyone's like, oh, well, he's the best receiver. We've seen what Garrett Wilson's doing over at the Jets, two great receivers, but he played second fiddle to him and got the work done. That's what he does. Great route runner. So yeah, he's a great option. Yeah, I like your shout on Alvin Kamara this week. Fingers crossed for me, he doesn't do great because he's going up against me in fantasy. But yeah, I think it's a close game. I do think it's a close game.
Yeah.
I think it's a close game if Ridder plays up to the level I think he can play at. With not knowing that, like you said, and it might not happen for him. You've got to stay with the Saints for this one and back the team that's been playing together the longest. So I'm going to side with the Saints, but I'm rooting for the Falcons in this one. The next game up, this is the game that our group have been talking about. It's the one that everybody wants to watch, and no one said that this before the start of the season or last year or ever. It's the Detroit Lions at the New York Jets.
Well, everyone did want to watch it, and then the doctor got involved, and now Zach Wilson, people. Zach. Just bad, isn't it? Bam Knight all the way. Watch him run like mad. 11-10. I had him there anyway. I had him down, whoever it was going to be, Bam Knight. I had Garrett Wilson as well. and I had Garrett Wilson in my treble for the Sundays. I felt, but I can't put him in at 6-4. I thought he was such a good price. I haven't actually looked to see if it's changed.
Yeah,
I would be amazed if it hasn't. He's 7-5 now, so he's gone out a little bit, but not a lot. Yeah, Bam Knight, I think, is definitely worth looking at 11-10. I had the under anyway at 44.5. I'm now supremely confident about the under at 44.5 at 10-11. I just don't see a lot of points here. With the Jets, it's kind of Knight, and that's it, I feel. I can't really be confident with any of the others all the time Zach Wilson is playing. On the Lions side, it's very much they're away from home, and we all know what happens when they're away from home. And not only are they away from home, they're away to one of the best defenses in the league by a lot. You know, they are very, very good. Tied second against passing touchdowns, tied 16th against rushing touchdowns. Not as good against the run. I think because of that, that's why I've gone for Swift at 5-4, and also Jamal Williams at 11-8. I could see both of them potentially getting in, but I think that's about as far as it goes. The only one that I'm remotely interested, I always say him, and I'm not going to this week. He's not coming up this week. It's the only one I'm interested in purely because of the price. We saw it last week. If he can do the same as what he did last week on just a one-off play and break through that Jets defense, it's Jameson Williams at 3-1. I think that's a great price for Williams. I can't back Amon-Ra St. Brown in this game. Not against the Jets defense away from home. It's so disappointing because I have him all the time and he always scores, and it's so annoying. But not against that defense. I like the Jets to win it. They were -1. Oh no, sorry, I apologize. I like the Jets to win it when Mike White was playing. I don't know really. I don't. Yeah, the Jets still. They're +1.5 now. They were -1.5. The Jets +1.5 at 10-11, just because of the defense. It's going to be like the New England game. It's going to be that 3-3 game, isn't it? And then they win it on the. I think they nick it.
I'd expect Detroit to put more points up. You know,
than 3.
You know,
I'd hope so. Yeah.
Have you got any odds for us for Penei Sewell touchdown?
No, shockingly, that's not in there. There's an any other touchdown scorer. You can have that if you want. That's
no, because the odds will be terrible.
7-1.
Last week, Adam, you had Amon-Ra St. Brown in your treble, and I think Reynolds got in the end zone. Williams got in the end zone. DJ Chark got in the end zone. Everybody apart from Amon-Ra St. Brown. So this will be the week that he does get in because you haven't backed him. Yeah, Zach Wilson, he's got a point to prove, and he needs to get the starting position back and play well. But knowing how he plays and what he will try and do, and the areas of doubt I had with him coming out of college, that isn't a good position for him to be in, trying to prove himself, because I think he'll make those silly throws. He'll make those scrambling around, trying to make something out of nothing because he wants to look good. It's the big thing about him. He wants to look good. He's cocky. He's arrogant. And I don't think that works well when you're trying to prove yourself to get your position back. I think he plays well when confidence is on his side and he's got a bit of a roll going and he's got a few back-to-back wins. I think that's when you see the best out of him, not when he's trying to prove a point of how good he is. So usually I would say in that instance, we'd see better out of a quarterback and maybe I'd back the Jets, but it's tough. I'm going to go with the Lions. They're on a roll, aren't they? So I'm going to back the Lions for this one. Although Jets defense is really, really good. Lions find a way to score points, don't they? They just do. They're explosive when it comes to the offense. And the defense has been better. And all it's got to do, you know, Aiden Hutchinson's just got to track down Zach Wilson. Should be it. Job done. Get him scrambling around.
Pretty much, yeah. I can't remember. I think it was with. I think it's on the Tuesday night, the discussion show we do. I think with Freddie, we were talking about the Lions, and we were talking about Dan Campbell and how this guy kind of embodies Detroit. And I think sometimes you can see that with quarterbacks as well. I think you do get that. I don't feel that Zach Wilson particularly embodies Robert Saleh or anything to do with the New York Jets. It's not a match that works. And I think you're starting to see the cracks because of that a little bit.
Yeah, you can't be the quarterback of the team and the defense play so well, and then when you lose, go into the office and be like, "Yeah, it's everybody else's fault, not my fault." You know, you wouldn't get Dan Campbell would probably, you know, bite your knees off, wouldn't he? You know, it wouldn't happen. But yeah, I'm going to side with the Lions. Next game up is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Carolina Panthers that are in the hunt for the playoffs. They decided to bomb for the season.
Yeah, who needs Baker Mayfield or Christian McCaffrey? Hey, you don't need any. Let's trade everyone away, and we're still getting. Yeah, this game is a little bit of a dead game, I think. To be honest, there's not a lot in this. Although there is one that I am really keen on. On the Steelers side, there's not a lot. I think Trubisky is going to be starting by the sound of it. The Panthers defense is kind of they're mid-table for everything. They're 16th against the rush, 15th against pass. They're a solid defense, so I think they'll. You know, you saw, didn't you, with Trubisky this week? There was a few interceptions. It's not great, and I think that you're probably going to see a similar thing this week. So I'm not really keen on much from the Steelers, apart from Pat Freiermuth, because I say Pat Freiermuth every week because he always gets the targets, and he scored last week. You know, he got us a winner last week, and he's 11-4. Again, he's a decent price. I think that he's the one that they may go for. I just can't really trust the other wide receivers with a quarterback like that, and also the run game. It's okay. I mean, Harris is looking a little bit better, but it's still not great, and it's mainly because of that O-line. So there's not really a lot on the Steelers side. On the Panthers side, I really like DJ Moore for this game. Now, normally I'm not really that keen on DJ Moore most of the time, but he's going up against this Steelers defense, and although they're getting a little bit better at it, they are still pretty bad against the pass. They're tied 29th for giving up passing touchdowns. I think Moore is someone who could exploit that, and with Sam Darnold, you kind of felt like he kind of he got okay. There was a bit of tempo going on. It wasn't too bad, and I think that what you're probably seeing is that out of the three quarterbacks that they had at the beginning, probably the best one of the three is playing now. So I think at 15-8, I really like DJ Moore. Panthers just by like a field goal, maybe. I can't get really excited about it.
Yeah, it's odd to think that the Steelers brought Mitch Trubisky in as their to be their main quarterback, didn't they? You're right with Freiermuth. I think we've spoke about it over the last few weeks, months, that Freiermuth could be that next generation of Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews coming through, that taking over the mantle from them as the next best in line at the tight end position. We saw him get in the end zone last week as well. Big target, good with his hands, doesn't drop a lot, does he? So yeah, always like that option regardless. It's a safety blanket as well, a tight end. We spoke about that before when teams are struggling. If you've got a good safety blanket like that, you can just dump it off to in the middle. It's great. So I really like that bet. Panthers, I'm struggling to call the game really. What I saw from the Panthers last week, I kind of called it last week and said that they're all playing for their positions, so you might get more out of them and a better game, and we did. We saw a lot better out of them. I'm gonna stick with the Steelers. I don't think Panthers can continue it. I think they've had that game, and Steelers defense when Watt's in there is 10 times better. It's one player, but it's 10 times better. So I'm going to stick with the Steelers. I just think they're better on paper, and I know I've said that before. Like the Colts, the Steelers and the Colts have burnt me this year by saying I've got to go with them. I'm not convinced by the Panthers yet. I'm just not convinced. And
no one should be convinced by the Panthers.
That area of doubt, I'm sticking with the team that is more consistent on a bigger span. So I'm siding with the Steelers.
Okay, okay, fair enough.
Next game up, I think this could be an interesting fixture. I think it might be a good game. It's Dallas Cowboys at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an odd one. We were talking about this last night, actually, with the Cowboys and the Jags on a show that I was doing. Obviously we all want the Jags to win it, apart from Cowboys fans, but we all want the Jags to win it. I just feel like the problem for the Jags and in this particular game is that Cowboys defense is just that good. It really is. And I think Dan Quinn, been saying it for a good 18 months, done a great job as defensive coordinator there. They're tied third against rushing touchdowns, tied sixth against passing touchdowns. There's not going to be a lot for the Jags to really get hold of here. And so ETN has struggled over the last few weeks. That kind of puts you off a little bit. Christian Kirk was pretty non-existent last week against the Lions, which was a big surprise. So that's a bit strange. But obviously the one guy who I think he got 15 targets last week was Evan Ingram. He's 2-1, so he's a decent price to look at for a tight end who got an insane amount of targets. Obviously, he won't get the same, and they're going up against a much better defense. But that's probably the one that I would look at as a potential red zone scorer. On the Cowboys side, a lot of this is Pollard and Zeke, isn't it? I mean, that is what it is. It's they're both even money. So if you fancy doubling your money, I'd be surprised if one of them doesn't get it. I think that's pretty much all it is. I can't really get too excited about CeeDee Lamb because he just doesn't seem to be getting involved as much. Gallup, he pops up every now and then, but that's be a bit of a shocker. I like Dalton Schultz. I think he's a really good tight end, but again, there's so much run game in this, and I don't think it's going to be that far apart as well. Like I don't think it's going to be a massively high scoring game. I quite like the under at 48. I think that will happen at 10-11. So yeah, there's not really a lot. I think the Cowboys will win it. I think they'll nick it. And I think Pollard and Zeke are probably going to do what they've been doing the last few weeks, and I could see them both scoring.
Yeah, when you talk about the fact that you don't trust CeeDee Lamb and Gallup pops up every now and again, I think what realistically we need to be saying is Dak Prescott is the issue for me. When you've got like such a high scoring defense, such a good defense, and the run game is that good, the element for me of the weak spot is Dak, because he cannot get it done. And I think it's proven that they shouldn't have paid him. Like they shouldn't have paid Zeke previously. And they're really tying themselves into some later down the line issues. But, I'll let them cross that bridge when they need to come to it, because I am not a Cowboys fan. So,
well, they need a win, don't they? They need to get a Super Bowl here. Like they need to do it because, like you say, they are going to be in some serious problems in the not too distant future, and it's almost like you got a few years left and Jerry Jones ain't getting any younger, so it's like he wants that Super Bowl. It kind of feels like it's a bit now or never, and I just don't know if they have this ability to throw in a bad game every now and then, and I don't see it.
If they come up against a team that can shut down the run, they'll struggle. They'll struggle, and they may lose. And as we've said, they've got Zeke on a big contract, Dak on a big contract. The whole O-line of the veterans that they've got are all on big contracts. They're going to struggle to pay the likes of Leighton Vander Esch and people like that when their contract renewal comes up next year. So it's got to click for them now, because they won't be able to afford anybody soon. So yeah, we'll see. But Jags, again, they're another one that they look good in games and they look great, and then you get on the hype wagon and you're like, yeah, mate, this could go somewhere, and then they do nothing the following week. Like nothing. So they're hard to evaluate, and they're hard to like call week on week. The consistency isn't there for me like it is with some of the lesser teams. But when you look at the fact that the Titans are really, really struggling now, and the fact that the Jags are 2 games back, and they've got this game, then they've got the Jets, Texans, Titans, you could technically be saying that Jags are still in this to take the division, technically.
No, they are. They've got a shout, but they, like I say, I just feel like this is a tough defense to go up against. I think, as you said, they're too inconsistent. That is the problem. And I think what you're seeing is a team that kind of picks up a lot of, like, they pick up some 1-score wins, and then they pick up some 1-score losses, and it's 2 in and out, and that's the problem. And so they probably won't make it because of that. But they're in a good spot for like the future, but they're just not. They're not there now.
No one thought we would be saying they've got a chance to take the division at this point of the season.
No.
If they're in that conversation, you're saying well done. I think Dallas are too strong. Obviously, there's a lot of people tipping them as a dark horse for the Super Bowl. Got some question marks, but if they're in that conversation and they're in that bubble and they are playing well, aren't they? That run game is great. So yeah, you can't not back the Cowboys, I don't think, in this one, despite the fact, as you said at the start of this, we're all supporting the Jags. Come on, the Jags. Next game up, I don't think you'll be watching this one, Adam. I don't think you'll have this one on record. It's the Kansas City Chiefs at the Houston Texans.
No, I don't think, unless you're a Chiefs fan, I don't think Texans fans want to be watching this either. If you're a Chiefs fan, you might, but not Texans fans. Chiefs, I think this is a bit of a blowout waiting to happen, to be honest. They're 14-point favourites, the Chiefs. They could do that. I could see them doing that, but the over-under's 49.5. I feel like it's going to be under. I think it's not going to be quite as high scoring as that. I think the Chiefs will run it a lot because they can. And this is the thing. The Texans they are currently the best team against passing touchdowns. They do not give up any passing touchdowns because no one needs to pass the ball on. So that's all it is. They're tied 28th against the run. And I love Pacheco in this one. He's even money, but really like Pacheco in this one. Really like McKinnon at 6-5 as well. They're the two that I just think have got a really good chance. I think they're going to lean on both of them. And I think Kelsey as well will get lent on, not necessarily to score, but I think just to move the chains and stuff. The rest of them, I'm not remotely interested in any of them because I don't think they're going to need to be used, to be honest. I don't think they're going to go down that route. On the Texans side, Chris Moore looked all right. There's talk about Brandon Cooks might be back, but I don't think he will. And if he is, he's going to be limited. Nico Collins is out. So Chris Moore at 13-5 looked to be the one who was getting some touches. Amari Rodgers, the ex-Green Bay guy, got his touchdown on Sunday last week. He's 5-1. You fancy a bit of a crazy punt, he might, maybe they've unlocked him. You never know. So at 5-1, he could be worth a go. There's not a lot. I mean, I didn't want to take your one away from you, so I know how much you like Mr. Akins. So I didn't do him, but I think the Chiefs will win this pretty easily.
Is that because the last 2 weeks I don't think they've thrown the ball towards him?
Yeah, exactly. So
bizarrely, he's your best receiver for like the last sort of 3 weeks. You get a couple of the guys back, and we just won't throw it to the big guy. Just leave him to run around. Yeah, for me, we've discussed the Chiefs quite a bit. I'm not going to overanalyze this game because it's Chiefs win, isn't it? But we've discussed the Chiefs a lot every week of who to bet on with this game and going, who'd you pick? Who's your money on? And you always ask me that, and you go, which one would you go? And after watching them the last 2 weeks, it's McKinnon.
So after all that, what receiver do you go for? I'm going to go for the running back.
No, I mean to receive the ball.
You are right. It is true.
I'm watching it. I'm going like, right. I've said to him that MVS is the one in this game. Let's have a little watch. I'm going, no, he's thrown it to McKinnon. Oh, okay. What's he done this? No, he's throwing it to McKinnon again. So yeah, running, catching. I think McKinnon's a safe bet. I think to get in the end zone over Pacheco. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. Chiefs win. McKinnon for the bet. Next game, Arizona Cardinals at the Denver Broncos. Two struggling teams.
Yeah, this is so the over under for this game is 37, and yeah, it might not hit 37. It's going to be
as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so Brett Rippon for the Broncos and Colt McCoy, isn't it, for the Cardinals?
Decent backup.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, Rippon has shown like he got a touchdown, didn't he, at the end of the Kansas City game? He's shown that he can do a little bit. Colt McCoy has shown he's won games. You know, he's looked all right in the past, so they're both okay. And obviously going up against each other, it's not like you've got one amazing quarterback up against another one. So that's a positive. The one thing I would say, the thing that Colt McCoy may struggle with is this is the best defense in the league. It really is. They're tied second against passing touchdowns, tied third against rushing touchdowns. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult for anyone from the Cardinals to get anything out of this game. The only one that I'm remotely interested in is James Conner at 7-5, just because he's going to get the volume. I think he might be worth having a look at. On the other side, I am a little more interested in a few of the players, which is weird to say for the Broncos, but the Cardinals defense is appalling. It's really bad, and I've said the last few weeks, I think they've kind of given it up this year. Tied 29th against pass, tied 23rd against rushing touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy's 13-8. I think that's a decent price for Jeudy, who he got 3 touchdowns last week. He needs to show his worth because he's gone and got himself like a $36,000 fine or something stupid for taking his helmet off and touching an official. So yeah, 13-8 I think is a good price. And then finally, I don't know if Courtland Sutton's back or not. Now he's in the betting, but I don't know if he's back, and if he is, whether he's particularly fit. I don't think he's going to be that fit. So I'd probably rather stick with Jeudy. But if Sutton's not there, Cardinals are awful against the tight end. It's one of the worst. They might even be the worst team against the tight end. Greg Dulcich at 11-4 got very involved last week. I think could see a touchdown coming for him. So there's two decent bets there. I will probably go for the Broncos just because the defense is so good. I don't think it's going to be particularly high scoring, which is why the line's at 37. But yeah, I quite like Jeudy and Dulcich for this one, and I think the Broncos win quite a tight game that not really that bothered about, but someone has to be.
Now, if I've got any advice to any of the Cardinals players, it's don't piss Jeudy off. The incident you're talking about where he bumped into one of the officials, he didn't get a pass interference call, and he looked like he was possessed and was like stomping off of the field, like shaking.
That's what you want. That's what you want, isn't it?
And then bumped into an official on the way off of his like complete psycho moment, and then went off on one and scored 3 touchdowns. So don't piss Jeudy off. That's my advice to you. I stayed up and watched the Cardinals play the Pats. When they were allowed to get the run game going, they looked good. They looked in it. they gave up a couple of a touchdown on the defensive side, so they were resort to throwing the ball, and that's when they struggled a bit, despite the fact the receivers they've got are big names. That's when they did struggle. So as long as if they can get the running game going again in this game, I can see them taking it. I think, now they've got Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins in that lineup. I think that does make them a bit more viable to look at for winning, but it doesn't seem to work. I just like Colt McCoy as a backup. I think he's a talented backup, so I think he can get it done over Rypien, who might struggle. I think it's more the secondary that struggles for the Cardinals, not the front seven. I think JJ and Simmons and players like that still getting involved, still getting to the quarterback. So I'm gonna go with the Cardinals for the win in this one. I just don't like anything the Broncos are doing other than their defense.
I think if you are interested in them, Hopkins is 13-8 and Brown's 5-2. I think if you are on that side that you think McCoy, obviously not as good as Kyler Murray, but to a certain degree, maybe more of a passer than what Kyler Murray is. If you're more into that sort of thing, then they are good. But I mean, Hopkins at 13-8 is a big price. It's very kind of similar to Hill at 7-4. That's a great price if you want to go down that route. I think this Broncos defense is just something different, and that's the problem.
As talented as Pat Surtain is, you can't mark both of them.
That's true.
Next game up, another one you will not be staying up to watch. It's 9 o'clock, just go to bed. It's the New England Patriots at the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, considering you just came out and said you stayed up to watch the Cardinals, New England Patriots, I mean, geez.
Hey, I'm a different breed.
you are special. Not a particularly exciting game, this one. Not really masses to bet on either in this particular one. I don't really. I mean, I think the Raiders. I think I'll back the Raiders in this one just because I feel like I've been incredibly unfair to them over the most of this season. I'm gonna go down that route. It's just because I want Josh Jacobs to have an amazing game because I got him in fantasy as well. So that's pretty much all it is. The Patriots are well known for taking out the best option. I would argue that's Davante Adams, personally. I think they're going to try and mark him out of the game, but Adams is different. I just don't think they're going to be able to do it. So I like Adams at 10-11, like Jacobs at 21-20. I think both of them are worth looking at. Not really that bothered about anyone else, to be honest. I know Waller's back. I know Renfro's meant to be back as well, but it's their first game. I don't know how much they're going to be involved, to be honest, and I'm just not really willing to go down that route. The over-under is at 44.5. Quite like the under for this game. I think there's going to be a lot of running in this game. So the under for 44.5, I think, is one. Ramondre Stevenson is. I'm currently looking. It says that he's 4-6 to score any time. Now, as far as I'm aware, I don't think he's going to be playing. From what I thought he was out. From what a lot of people were saying, he hasn't practiced. Damian Harris is 7-4. Now, he came in and practiced yesterday on, I think it was limited, and Pierre Strong at 11-8. They're kind of the two that I'm kind of interested in if Stevenson is out. And then finally, because as we said, the Cardinals are awful against the tight ends. Well, so are the Raiders. They're pretty bad against them as well. So because of that, Hunter Henry at 13-5, he nearly got in. We had him last week and he nearly got in. He had one play where he just went down, I think 4-3 yards out.
Elbow just
down. Nearly got in. So I could see something similar happening in this game and he might get in for that. But yeah, I mean, not that exciting, but come on, Josh Jacobs. That's all I've got.
Am I going to have to have a word with you at some point as commissioner of our fantasy league? Because prior to the show airing, there was a comment that went into our group chat saying that you were playing against Tinch in the league, and you might have paid him off by saying that you'd be nicer to the Raiders on the podcast in return for him not playing the 49ers defense. And lo and behold, you've said, oh, I've not been nice to them. I think they're going to win this. They're great. Josh Jacobs. So you're really playing into the hands of as being right about occlusion in this game.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I fell into that quite badly, considering you were the one who put the comment in there. So yeah, I didn't even think of it going down that route. But I mean, yeah, but wouldn't you like to see Josh Jacobs absolutely destroy the Raiders fans' fantasy dream?
Yeah, why not? But equally, like the Patriots for this game, Raiders. I can't back them for anything really.
No. No, I completely get it. I'm just, I have nothing to say really, so I'm just making stuff up.
Patriots defense is great, looks really good.
Yeah.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, they just put Matt Patricia on the bench, let him sit in the stand and drink some beers with the fans or something, and just let Mac Jones play the way he wants to play. Because last year, Mac Jones finished first in all categories for rookies and looked good. And now Matt Patricia's calling the plays. He just throws the ball sideways, and that's it. So fingers crossed there's none of that. And whoever the scout is for running backs at the Patriots needs a medal, because both Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris both look good. I mean, did you mention Strong for the bet for if?
Yeah, so Damien Harris is meant to be in. He had limited practice. He's meant to be playing, they reckon. So he's 7-4, but also Pierre Strong is 11-8. So he's actually favoured slightly more than him. Strong looks very good. I think that he definitely probably more. If I'm right, I think is Strong more the pass catching back. I think. Yeah.
So if you watch the game of the breakdown of it, Kevin Harris was in the back for all of the big run down the middle heavy plays, and they only brought Pierre Strong in as a change-up. So I'm really shocked that Kevin Harris's odds and value just aren't there. That seems a bit odd, because if Damien Harris isn't playing, it's gonna revert to Kevin Harris.
So Kevin Harris is 2-1. So he is a bit bigger. Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason is that they're pretty confident that Damien Harris is going to play.
Yeah, so if all three of them are going to play, don't bother throwing the ball, just run it all day long. You might be all right.
And you are against the Raiders, who you can run the ball on quite easily. So I think that's probably what you're going to see a lot of here. I think it is a lot of that.
So Patriots for me. Next up is the struggling Tennessee Titans at the struggling Chargers. Although we saw a bit better from the Chargers, so.
Yeah, I thought the Chargers looked a lot better. I think the fact that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are both out there is quite a big thing for Justin Herbert. I like them both in this game. Keenan Allen's 11-8. Mike Williams is 6-4. I like both of them. I think that we all know that the Titans are very good against the run, but cannot defend the pass at all. Really easy to score on over the top. I think Williams is going to be ideal for that at 6-4. Like I say, Keenan Allen as well. I think he's more than capable. Another one actually, and I literally just thought of this. I didn't even think. I haven't written it down. DeAndre Carter is one that might be worth having a look at when it comes to over the top. We've seen a lot of him with Williams and Allen out. I don't think he's going to see that much of the game because of that, but he's worth having a look at. I'll just quickly get the price. Yeah, so he's 6-1. I think he might be put in as just a one-off play here. I could see him scoring and doing something there. So yeah, DeAndre Carter, I think, is worth having a look at. The Titans. So the Chargers have kind of got this reputation of being really bad against the run, but they're actually not that bad at giving up rushing touchdowns. They're pretty mid-table for it. Burks, I think he's out. I don't think he's practiced at all. So I think there's a bit of concern about whether or not he's going to play. it's Derrick Henry, and that's it. Really,
sounds familiar.
It does, doesn't it? There's not a lot there. I'm not really that keen on Robert Woods.
Surely you're going to give me the tight end.
There is one there's one guy. There is one guy that you have got to get on at a 4-1 shot. You've got to get on Chig Okonkwo. He came in last week, got us a 7-2 winner last week. 4-1. Definitely worth a look at. Picked him up myself. Come on, Chig, all the way.
I mean, definitely.
Chargers win.
Yeah, I'm going straight in. Chargers win. Just I'm out on the Titans at the moment, especially when Chig Okonkwo's actual only viable player to talk about, other than Henry. So you've got to side with the Chargers. And yeah, back-to-back weeks he's been in the end zone, so there's no reason why he can't do it for a third week running. So
the other thing with Okonkwo, this is the one thing, they are making plays specifically for him. You can see it, what they're doing. They're specifically for him, and so you've got to get with this guy 4-1.
Yeah, I said it to you last week. He was hot out of college, and now's the time to bring him in and develop him into the player for next year. So yeah, definitely. Next game up, I like this fixture. You know, Burrow versus Brady. It's the Cincinnati Bengals at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, I know this is at Tampa Bay, this one, but I kind of feel like it could be similar to what happened last week. I have to say, I think the Bengals are just going to be too powerful for them. Really, really like Jamar Chase at 21-20. Can't believe that he's odds against. So yeah, really like Chase at that price. Mixon, I think he's 21-20 as well. I'm not so keen, but I think he's got a good chance of getting in. T. Higgins, they think he's going to play, but after last week, I mean, he literally played one snap, and it was a bit like, don't know. So he's 11-8. It's slightly bigger than what Higgins has been for most of the season, but I think there's a risk in that, and so I probably wouldn't go that way. I think Chase is the real one that you want to look at for this particular game. On the Bucs side, they're going up against a very good defense. Bengals are tied second against passing touchdowns, tied 13th against rushing touchdowns. I think because of that, for me, it feels like if they've given how they were against the 49ers as well, they just couldn't get anything going when it came to the passing game. I think it could be similar again in this one. They're probably going to rely on Fournette quite a lot, so he's 15-8. Rashad White, he's about 15-8, 2-1 in most places. So I think they're the two that you want to look at on the Bucs side. I think, like I say, I think the Bengals could win and make that NFC South division even worse than what it is at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not going to be around the bush too much with this one. I think it's a Bengals win. The one person I would like to bring up is a guy's name that we keep seeing crop up over the last 4 weeks. And every time he catches the ball, I think Hurst has caught it. It's Trenton Irwin, the tight end.
Oh, okay.
No, he's a wide receiver, isn't he? Why do I think he's a tight end? He's a wide receiver.
Wide receiver, yeah.
Do you think we're going to see more of him? He's started to get more targets over the last 4 weeks. You know, saw him in the end zone.
Yeah, I suppose if you've not got Tyler Boyd out there, because he's injured, isn't he? I don't think Boyd's going to play at all. And if you're missing T. Higgins as well, then I think you'll probably see a little bit more of Irwin. He's 5-2. I've just noticed T. Higgins actually has gone in. So when I did this, he was 11-8. He's now 13-10. There does seem to be confidence about the fact that he's going to play. So I just feel like if you've got Chase out there, you've got Higgins out there, you're going to have Mixon or P. Ryan as the passing back. Yeah, I don't know how much Irwin will get involved. I think a lot of it will depend on whether Hayden Hurst plays or not.
What odds was he?
5-2.
I was hoping there'd be a lot.
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be one of them. And the primetime game, the big game, the one that everyone wants to watch and see. Couldn't decide between the two of them. Last game, it was a tie. They're going in for the rematch. It's the New York Giants at the Washington Commanders. Daniel Jones loves it at FedEx Field.
Please let this be another tie. Please let it happen, just for the fun of it. I mean, I know this is
for it to be a tie.
I get this is a divisional game and all that, but how is this Sunday night football? I mean, really, it's like
playoff implications. Both teams can get in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I quite like the Commanders for it. I have to say. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be exactly the same as what it was last time. The Giants struggle a little bit more against the run. They give up more rushing touchdowns than passing. They're tied 23rd against the run, whereas they're tied 8th against passing touchdowns. I think because of that, Brian Robinson kind of becomes a little bit interesting at 11-10. That's pretty much it for the Commanders. I'm not really that bothered about any of their wide receivers because I feel like the Giants' defense does pretty well against that. So it's not really where I want to go. The Commanders are very strong against the run. They don't give up many touchdowns to that, but they do have a bit of a weakness against passing. The Giants passing. I can't do this, seriously. The Giants receivers.
We've got a great receiver, real consistent over the last 2 games. What are you on about?
What is it? This is real. Like, so if you've not won anything all weekend and you're just desperate to just throw money away, you've got Hodgkins, is it? And Hodgins, apologies. Hodgins and James, 4-1 and 9-2. Fill your boots. One of them are getting, but like, I can't get excited about any of it because there's no Daniel Jones isn't very good, and you're basically Barkley. You're essentially Barkley, and as great as he is, the guy's got a neck injury. And I know that he's fit, they're saying, and that he's going to be better, but I can't get excited about it. You're on a bad run. You can't win games. I just... Done. Sorry.
It's a bit harsh to talk about a team that's in the playoffs currently. So, these matched up in week 13. And for me, watch the game. The Giants looked the better team of the two. They just couldn't hang on in the fourth quarter. That's when I did say that, they have struggled to get through the full 4 quarters of a game, and they are a bit ropey towards the end. So there's no doubt in my mind that they can be the better team again. We haven't lost many people since we last played, so I think they can have a repeat performance. We seem to get our own way. And Isaiah Hodgins of the last 3 weeks for me has really looked good. He seems to be targeted. He seems to be catching the ball. Against the Commanders last time out, he caught 5 of 6, 83 yards and a touchdown. Last week against the Eagles, best secondary going. Again, 4 receptions of 67 yards and a touchdown. He seems to be the emerging guy that's consistent. So we're not just Saquon, maybe. Maybe we have got a bit of a talent.
No, you're just Saquon. Don't you worry. You're just
like
4-1 though. 4-1 for him.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why people aren't getting on that. Like I say, the consistency's been there over the last 3 weeks. Even had a good game against the Cowboys, 3 or 4 75 yards. So
I would argue. I think the reason that they're not getting on it is that the Giants have kind of been on a bit of a bad run. You're playing against a division rival away from home. They're also trying to get in the playoffs, and I feel like they're going to. That's probably why. There's no. I know he's got the last 2 games, but there's no real consistency over a season, is there? And you can't trust a quarterback like Daniel Jones to be consistent.
I'm going to get the stat for this after the show. I'm going to post it. I'm going to send it to you. Look at Daniel Jones's stats at FedEx Field. Look at his stats when he plays Washington. He is incredible. So we're just going to see him play well again in Washington, and he's going to play well, and we're going to win. And maybe secure a playoff spot. So less of that, and let's talk about the other prime time game that you were.
Oh no! This is as bad. Don't you worry.
Mocking these two teams, but then we go on to the last game of the whole weekend is the LA Rams against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, another really exciting game of two teams that have got absolutely naffle to play for. It really is a pretty rough game, this one. I don't know who picks these games as primetime ones. It's a bit beyond me, but there you go.
Perhaps they thought it was 2021.
Yeah, or even before. Even before, they're stuck in the past, this NFL malarkey. So yeah, I think the Packers will win it. Not because I'm a Packers fan, but also because I just think that the Rams they're not doing great. They got Baker Mayfield. He's got to come into the Green Bay and try and win. I know they snuck a win against the Raiders, but as we have always said, the Raiders just have this ability to screw themselves over every time. So I'm going to go for the Packers on this one. They're actually 7-point favourites, which is a little surprising, I thought, but I do like Aaron Jones in this game. I think he will do well. He's 21-20, so he's quite short. The Rams are eighth against rushing touchdowns, so it's a tough matchup for him. It's not a great one, but the other thing is they are tied 15th against the pass. Christian Watson, again, just keep going with Christian Watson. He can't stop scoring when he's playing. So he's 13-8. He's still a good price. So like Watson at 13-8. I think it'd be really interesting. They're talking about Dobbs coming back for this game. It'd be interesting to see how they do if Dobbs is out there for quite a lot, how they do together. I think that'll be interesting for the Packers. Biggest weakness of the Packers defense is the run. They struggle to stop that a little bit. Cam Akers is 9-4. Seems to be getting the work. I mean, I'm not a massive fan, but he seems to be getting the work.
Over who? I mean, Kyron Williams is a little tiny back that's used as a catcher. So
exactly,
you're not going to give him a heavy load.
So I think that, like you say, that's probably why Akers is getting it. So at 9-4, he's a bigger price, quite like that. And then finally on the Rams side, Van Jefferson at 7-2. One of these wide receivers has got to do something. He got in last time with Baker. I think that you could see him do it again at a decent price at 7-2. And I think the Packers win it. I could see the over-under's 39.5. I quite like that to go over. Not by a lot, but I think that could go over. So at 10-11, I like that. And I think the Packers will sneak it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit unsure who might win this one. I think it's a good matchup. I think it's an even matchup. I think if the Rams didn't have Baker Mayfield, I would have said the Green Bay win this easy. But I think Baker actually makes them viable to potentially win games. I don't know whether anyone follows this guy on social media. There's a guy called Benchwarmer Brown. He does little parodies. He did one for Baker Mayfield, talking about him being welcome back to the quarterback club. And someone was like, "You've got no wide receivers." He was like, "What are you on about? I've got Cooper Kupp." And they were like, "No, he's injured." And he was like, confusing Ben Skowronek for Cooper Kupp. So does that mean that the Cooper Kupp lookalike can get in the end zone for them? Because he just seemed to like him. Just seemed to throw the ball towards him.
Yeah, I noticed that against the Raiders, he was getting a lot of the ball. He is 15-4 anytime, so he's definitely he's one that you want to maybe keep an eye on. Could be worth a little dabble on Skowronek, but I think Van Jefferson over the top. I think.
Yeah, I do agree though. I think Packers seem to look a bit more like a complete team, if you can say that, this season as they've ever been. And it just seems there's more confidence now when you go out there and get on the field. And I think a Packers with confidence, they'll beat anyone. So you played the whole start of the season. Rodgers wasn't confident in throwing it to anyone. You didn't rely on the run game as much as you should. It just didn't click, but it's now clicking. So You've got to favour the Packers, despite the fact there's a lot of people that want Mayfield to win this one. So I think it's like the Jags game. I think you might get a few people supporting the Rams, but yeah, I've got to stick.
No one supports the Rams. What are you on? No one supports them.
Anyone who started following it over the last 3 years are all Rams fans. What are you on about? like you're a Packers fan from when they were good.
How rude! Honestly, unbelievable.
Right, we know it's early. We know that they might have injuries coming up. They might get injured in training today. But what are your trebles, Adam?
We have got 3 trebles. Okay, so we've done one for Saturday as well. So for the Saturday games, we have gone for Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, and Devin Singletary in a running back treble at 11-1. So not massive odds, but decent. The early Sunday games, we've gone for Tony Pollard, Isaiah Pacheco, and DJ Moore, which is 10.5-1. And then actually the one that I'm kind of more into, and I think more chance of winning, despite the fact it's bigger odds, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, and the mighty Chig Okonkwo at 18.5-1.
That's the biggest odds we've had on
we've had bigger than that, but it's the biggest we've had for the last few weeks.
Yeah, and some big names in that as well. You would expect Adams and Chase to be tick. So yeah, liking them. Definitely be getting on them. Definitely getting some more money in the bank just before Christmas. That'd be nice. Pay for all those presents. Slightly over on what we usually are. Only slightly, but no bye weeks. Lots more games to go over. So best of luck to your teams. Hopefully we can win you a bit more money. And then keep your eye out on social media. If there's any changes to any of the bets, we put any more out. Also, if we've got what shows are coming up, might be a few different times. So keep an eye on our socials. We'll let you know when we're on. But till then, guys, thanks for joining us.